कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी बिजनवाला गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवाला गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. ISKCON Govind ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Govindai Maharshi ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Are we still reading from our family business now? Our family business, innovative displays. Srila Prabhupada's second recommendation about displaying his books is that one should be innovative. If ever there was an innovation, here it is. In San Jose, California, Hamsa Priya Devi Dasi made a special backpack for her dog Yogi to carry Srila Prabhupada's books. Because Yogi was an attractive dog, people would come over to pet her. Seeing Yogi's unusual cargo, they would naturally ask Hamsa Priya about the books her dog was carrying. Hamsa Priya would then take the opportunity to hand the inquirer a book and explain it. When people came to know that a dog named Yogi was carrying books on yoga, they couldn't resist buying one. In this way, lots of Srila Prabhupada's books were sold from Yogi's backpack during her lifetime. We even added an accounting of the books distributed from Yogi's backpack to our local distribution newsletter under Yogi's name. The third recommendation Srila Prabhupada gave us was to display his books wherever possible. There are many ways to show his books, but until we think deeply about it, we may miss some ideal or even obvious places. In the mountains of West Virginia, ISKCON New Vrindavan maintains Srila Prabhupada's Palace of Gold, as well as a beautiful Radhakrishna temple. Even though these landmarks are in a remote area, tour buses full of curious sightseers regularly come to New Vrindavan to see them. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Seventh Canto, 5th chapter, text 23 to 24. Shri Paradu Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsarpito Vishnu Bhaktischena Navalakshana Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye Ditam Uttamam Shri Paradu Vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhakti Jena Lakshana Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha Tanmanyati Tamuttamam Shriradvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Chinamandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pamsapita Vishnu Bhaktischena Valakshana Kriyata Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye Titam Uttamam Shiparadvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhakti Navalakshana Krite Bhagavati Yadha Tanmanyem Ditam. Ladies. Shivaravacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsapita Vishnu Bhakti Navalakshana Krite Bhagavati Atha Tanmanye Titavattam Shiparada Uvacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasya Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhakti Navalakshana Kriyata Bhagavati Yata Tanmanye Ditamuttamam Shipraduvacha Prahlad Maharaj said, Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, not anyone else. Smaranam, remembering, Padasevanam, serving the feet, Archanam, offering worship, with Sadosha Upjar, the 16 kinds of paraphernalia. Vandanam, offering prayers, Dasyam, becoming the servant, Sakyam, becoming the friend, Atmanivedam, surrendering everything, whatever one has. Iti, thus, Pumsa Arpita, offered by the devotee, Vishnu, unto Lord Vishnu, not to anyone else. Bhakti, devotional service. Chet, if Navalakshana, possessing 9 different processes. Kriyata, one should perform. Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adha, directly or completely. That, Manye, I consider. Aditam, learning. Uttamam, topmost. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming a servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Please repeat the translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, quality, paraphernalia, and pastimes of the Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Because it's a very long purport, I'm going to just read up to a certain point, otherwise I'll be here for 1 hour reading the purport. When Prahlad Maharaj was asked by his father to say something from whatever he had learned, he considered that what he had learned from his spiritual master was the best of all teachings, whereas what he had learned about diplomacy from his material teacher, Sunda and Mark, was useless. Bhakti Prashanu Bhavo Viraktir Anyatraja, Bhagavad 11:242. This is a symptom of pure devotional service. A pure devotee is interested only in devotional service, not in material affairs. To execute devotional service, one should always engage in hearing and chanting about Krishna or Lord Vishnu. The process of temple worship is called archana. How to perform archana will be explained herein. One should have complete faith in the words of Krishna, who says that he is the great well-wishing friend of everyone. Surida Sarva Bhutanam. A devotee considers Krishna the only friend. This is called Sakyam. Pumsarpita Vishnu. The word Pumsa means by all living entities. There are no distinctions, permitting only a man or only a Brahmana to offer devotional service to the Lord. Everyone can do so. Found in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32. Striyo Vaishya Tata Sudra Devi Yanti Paramgatim. Although women Vaishyas and Shudras are considered less intelligent, they also can become devotees and return home back to Godhead. After performing sacrifices, sometimes a person engaged in fruitive activity customarily offers the results to Vishnu. But here it is said, Bhagavati Adha, one must directly offer everything to Vishnu. This is called sannyas, not merely nyas. A tridandi sannyasi carries 3 dandas, signifying kayo, mano, vakya, body, mind, and soul. Body, mind, words. All of these should be offered to Vishnu, and then one can begin devotional service. Fruitive workers first perform some pious activities, and then formally or officially offer the results to Vishnu. The real devotee, however, first offers his surrender to Krishna with his body, mind, and words, and then uses his body, mind, and words for the service of Krishna as Krishna desires. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following explanation in his Tatya. The word Shravana refers to giving oral reception to the holy name and descriptions of the Lord's form, qualities, entourage, and pastimes as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar authorized scriptures. After orally receiving such messages, one should memorize these vibrations and repeat them. This is Kirtanam. Smaranam means trying to understand more and more about the Supreme Lord, and Padasevanam means engaging oneself in serving the lotus feet of the Lord according to the time and circumstances. Archana means worshipping Lord Vishnu as one does the temple, and Vandana means offering respectful obeisances. Manmana bhav madhyaji mam namaskaru. Vandana means namaskaru, offering obeisances or offering prayers. Thinking oneself to be Nitya Krishna Das, everlastingly a servant of Krishna, is called Dasyam, and Sakyam means being a well-wisher of Krishna. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him because everyone is constitutionally his servant. Therefore, as a sincere friend of Krishna, one should preach this philosophy, requesting everyone to surrender unto Krishna. Atmanivedana means offering Krishna everything, including one's body, mind, intelligence, and whatever one may possess. One's sincere endeavor to perform these 9 processes of devotional service is technically called bhakti. The word atha means directly. One should not be like the karmis who perform pious activities and then formally offer the results to Krishna. That is karma kanda. One should not aspire for the results of his pious activities, but should dedicate oneself fully and then act piously. In other words, one should act for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, not for the satisfaction of his own senses. That is the meaning of the word atha directly. Anya vilasita shunyam gyana pradivinapritam anukulena Krishna shilana bhakti uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. One should simply satisfy Krishna without being influenced by fruitive knowledge or fruitive activity. The Gopal Tapani Upanishad says that the word bhakti means engagement in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not of anyone else. This Upanishad describes that bhakti is offering of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To perform devotional service, one should be relieved of the bodily conception of life and aspirations to be happy through elevation to the higher planetary systems. In other words, work performed simply for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, without any desire for material benefits, is called bhakti. Bhakti is also called nishkarma, or freedom from the results of fruitive activity. Bhakti and nishkarma are on the same platform, although devotional service and fruitive activity appear almost the same. The 9 different processes enunciated by Prahlad Maharaj, who learned them from Narada Muni, may not all be required for the execution of devotional service. If a devotee performs only one of these 9 without deviation, he can attain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes it is found that when one performs one of the processes, other processes are mixed with it. That is not improper for a devotee. When a devotee executes any one of the 9 processes, Nava Lakshana, this is sufficient. The other 8 processes are included. Now let us discuss these 9 different processes. So I'll just stop at this point. Om Agyanatamirandasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurani Tanina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just read the translation again. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming a servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. It's a very important verse, as we can see, Prabhupada's purport is so long, which means that he's really emphasizing so much this 9 processes of bhakti. And there's so much to say, I'm only going to say a few things, like what Prabhupada is saying in this part of the purport, because he goes into a lot of detail when in the next part of the purport about all the different processes, the 9 processes. So we can leave that for the next class, because otherwise I'll be here for another hour. So in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is describing the 9 processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. And Prabhupada gives the translation in the verse that Shravanam means hearing. Kirtanam means chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu. And Smaranam, remembering them. Padasevanam is serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam is offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia. Vandanam is offering prayers to the Lord. Dasi is becoming a servant. Sakyam is considering the Lord as best friend. And Atmanam is surrendering everything unto him. In other words, everything with both kind words. So this is known as Nava Bhakti. It's like 9 crosses 9, Navas 9. So his teachers, his father, what he had learned from his father, he's and that what he had learned from his spiritual master Narada Muni was actually the best of all teachings, and this is what Narada Muni taught Bhagavatam, these 9 processes of devotional service. And what he'd learned from his material teachers, Sanda and Mark, was the useless waste of time, it was useless knowledge. And I was listening to a lecture of Prabhupada was saying that the education throughout the world today is Sanda and Marka education. So this is like demoniac, education, because the modern education is just basically about Artha and Kama, not even Dharma, it's Adharma actually, what they're teaching. And they're teaching how to make enough money to enjoy your senses. So Artha is economic development and Kama is sense enjoyment, satisfying our senses. So, and when people get frustrated with these processes, when they realize they're actually really suffering, then they want to get free from suffering, then they take to moksha or an impersonal type of liberation where one doesn't have to suffer anything. But bhakti actually is higher than liberation because it's engaging all the senses in the proper state in serving Krishna, because originally the soul is eternally servant of Krishna, Nitya Krishna Das. So bhakti is actually above liberation. And by performing bhakti, one actually develops prema, pure love of God. So there's 4 Purusha Arthas, so the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And love of God, or prema, is actually considered higher. It's prema martha mahan, it's the highest goal of life. So Prabhupada is describing the highest goal of life because all he's been taught by his teachers is Artha, Dharma, Artha, and Kama, not even Moksha. But Prabhupada's actually describing Bhakti, the 9 processes of Bhakti. This is actually the real education. So materialistic education is just how to live comfortably, how to enjoy the senses, how to get free from suffering. But the real education is actually to understand what is the self, what is the relationship with Krishna, what are we doing, what is the purpose of life. Self-realization is the real purpose, and this should actually be how we should make progress in Krishna consciousness. And it begins with Shravanam. This is the hearing about Krishna, because we can't really understand anything unless we hear about that. Any subject we have to hear about, whether it's material subject or spiritual subject, we have to hear about it. So the first process is Shravanam, and this is actually real spiritual education. When we hear the beginning of spiritual education, when we hear about Krishna, when we hear about spiritual subject matters, people are hearing so many mundane things in the world. So the Shravanam Kirtan is taking place in the material world, but it's all mundane. It's all about how to enjoy the senses, how to live happily in the world, how to exploit and get enough out of the material energy. But the real Shravanam Kirtan is about Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada says twice, he says, not of anyone else. In both places, he says, 2 places in the transliteration, he says, it should be of Vishnu, not anyone else. So it shouldn't be about demigods, it shouldn't be about mundane people. Shravanam Kirtan should be only about Vishnu or Krishna. So how do we hear? We have to hear from self-realized souls who've actually realized the truth. And then there will be a change of heart. If we don't hear from the right source, then there will not be this change of heart. We can see how Srila Prabhupada started the movement, in America, in Thompson Square Park. Prabhupada just chanted, and all these hippies started hearing Prabhupada's chanting. Prabhupada's chanting the pure holy name. And because of this sound vibration, all these hippies, all the different people in that area, they started becoming more and more purified, and they eventually started coming to the Matchless Gift Store, and they started hearing from Srila Prabhupada more and more. And they gave up all their bad habits, they gave up their LSD, they gave up all these bad habits because they heard Prabhupada's pure chanting. This hearing is so important because they heard from the right source. It was a change of heart. And then one gets free from this bodily designations, this bodily identity that we're identifying with the body all the time. And one understands that we're actually eternal servants of Krishna. We have a loving relationship with Krishna. So there's so many different types of personalities in the world. There's karmis, there's jnanis, there's the yogis, but it's all it's all considered material. They're still living in the material world because they're trying to enjoy material facilities in some way or another, whether it's gross or subtle, and they're trying to get some sense enjoyment, something out of this material world, whether it's karma, some sense enjoyment, whether it's jnana, some knowledge, speculative knowledge, whether it's yogis, they want mystic cities, but they're not satisfied. So none of these people are actually satisfied. Only the devotees are shanta, they're peaceful. It's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I can't remember the verse, but only the devotees are actually living in the spiritual world because they're satisfied in a relationship with Krishna. They're satisfied in serving Krishna. They're not interested in all these other things. So real life is to fully engage in Krishna consciousness. So to fix up in Krishna consciousness in spiritual life. This is the only way we can get free from bondage and misery, because everything else is actually going to keep us in this material world. There has to be some sacrifice, because unless we perform sacrifice, we will be bound to this material world. As it says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, sacrifice to Lord Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work will bind us to the material world. So the sacrifice is the Shravanam and Kirtanam. We sacrifice our time to hear about Krishna, chant his holy names, talk about Krishna, discuss his pastimes. So this is actually the process which cleanses the heart of all contamination. Lord Chaitanya says that Kirtanya Sadahari, we should always chant the holy name of the Lord. And this is actually the process that will purify us, and it's actually the prime benediction for all humanity at large. He doesn't give any other process except this. This is the actual real process, it's the chanting and the hearing. All the other forms of bhakti, the 9 processes of bhakti, they're important, but this is the most important, the hearing and the chanting. And this is the purpose of spiritual education, is to make us fully Krishna conscious. So when we're hearing and chanting about Krishna, this Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, then it will be Smaranam. We will remembering Krishna. And when one thinks of the Lord constantly, then love of God will manifest within our hearts. This is Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said this to Rupa Goswami, that when one thinks of the Lord constantly, love of Krishna manifests within the heart. So we want to hear and chant, because whatever we hear and chant, whatever we think, whatever we hear about or talk about, then we'll remember those things. So instead of hearing and talking about mundane things, we follow this process of hearing and chanting about Krishna or Vishnu, and then we'll, naturally remember Krishna. And then one will want to serve Krishna with love, because it's called devotional service. It's not like in action. it's an activity, it's a service. So we have to learn to serve Krishna with love. So that's why all these 9 processes of bhakti are there, because there are so many different ways we can serve Krishna. You know, we can do archanam, we can do deity worship, we can do vandanam, we can offer prayers to Krishna, we can serve the lotus feet, which is like pilgrimage, we can serve the holy dam. There's so many ways we can serve Krishna. And I was actually thinking that within archanam, we're actually performing so many of these processes of bhakti, because we're hearing and chanting, we're offering the worship, we're remembering who we're offering it to, we're offering prayers, vandanam, and we're Dasi, we're serving the Lord as a servant, we're accepting the Lord as our friend, and we can surrender everything to the Lord this way. So it's very powerful. Deity worship is very powerful because it's like all these processes are actually within it. And actually, we shouldn't, all other processes of devotional service are nourished by hearing and chanting. So you can't just do one. They should actually be accompanied by hearing and chanting. And when we perform these processes without any personal motivation or any other desires, then it's considered pure devotional service. Until then, it's mixed with our desires for material things, or some sense of gratification, whatever it is. So in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, we may have other desires to enjoy the world a little, for some sense enjoyment. Even within the processes of bhakti, when we're hearing and chanting, we want to get some pleasure out of it. If we're in kirtan, we try to get some pleasure out of it. So we're not just doing it solely for Krishna's pleasure, So, or when we're giving a class, we may have some other motivation, or leading something. So to some sort of adoration, some gain, some recognition. So these are, other motivations. But when we're doing service only for Krishna's pleasure, not for any other motive, then that's actually recognized as pure devotional service. So you can see that Prabhupada went through so many inconveniences and hardships to come to the West first, and then he went through so many challenges to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. But Prabhupada's only desire was to please the spiritual master in Krishna. And this is actually, he was showing him as an example of pure devotional service. It's not for his pleasure that he was doing, it was for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So we have to pay the price for pure devotional service. It's not cheap. Sometimes you see we can buy cheap jewelry that looks like gold or looks like, real gems, but it's just an imitation. So you only have a small price for the imitation jewelry. But if you really want pure gold or pure diamond, pure sapphire, then you have to pay the price. And otherwise you won't get the real deal. So if you want imitation of consciousness, then it's quite cheap. But if you want the real thing, then you have to pay the price. There has to be some sacrifice, there has to be some austerity, some purification. And it's not a very cheap thing, because it's the highest thing in the spiritual world, is pure devotional service. So we're not going to get this very cheap. And Krishna will give, so many things. He can give you sense of enjoyment very easily, even liberation very easily. But he doesn't give pure devotional service very easily, because he becomes conquered by that devotee. So this is like he reserves this for those who really want to please him, and without any desire for any enjoyment for oneself, for gain, safety, for any of these things. And that is a very high price, So if we're determined to reach the goal, then this is actually the price we have to pay: pure devotional service, pure love for Krishna, without any other motives. And one Srila Prabhupada says that his followers, they really want to go to the heavenly planets, because they want to get free suffering and they want to enjoy. So it's not actually going back to Goloka. So this is the thing we have to be careful of, that we may be performing devotional service, but is it actually because we want to get free from suffering? Is it to enjoy some sort of sense gratification through it? Or is it just for Krishna's pleasure? Like the gopis, one time Dwarka Krishna had a headache. So he says, the only thing that will cure him of his headache is the dust of his devotees. So Narada Muni went round asking Dwarkavasis, he asked the queens for the dust of their feet, and they refused and said, we can't give our dust for Krishna's feet, for Krishna's head, that's just not right. And then, so he went around so many different personalities, and they all refused the dust because they were afraid of going to hell, because, we can't put the dust on Krishna's head, or from our feet on Krishna's head. Then Narada Muni went to Vrindavan and he met the gopis and he asked them for the dust of their feet. He said, Krishna has a headache, please, he wants the dust of feet. So then the gopi said, yes, sure, we'll give the dust of our feet if it cures Krishna's headache. And Narada Muni says, well, are you not afraid of going to hell? We'll suffer in hell for this. He said, it doesn't really matter, if we go to hell, as long as Krishna's headache is relieved. Are we on that level where we will be prepared to go to hell to cure Krishna's, to please Krishna? So this is the level of the gopis. So this is actually pure bhakti, where we don't have any desire or motive for our own pleasure, where we only want to please Krishna for his pleasure. So is there any questions or comments?
Sakya is the one who wants to be a friend of Krishna is one who preaches. So is that how you cultivate friendship in the material world? If you want to be in Sakya, you have to go and preach.
This is how Prabhupada is describing it here. So it's general friendship, that if you want to, be a well-wisher, you want to relieve them of their anxiety. Lord Chaitanya says, he's an anxiety that falls all the suffering. So we want to please him, and then that's considered a friend if you want to help him in his mission, isn't it? So it's a general sort of idea of friendship, but he doesn't go into the higher friendships like in the spiritual worlds, like cowboy boys, that kind of friendship. Prabhupada just gives a general idea of friendship here. Is that okay?
I'm just wondering, is there like a hierarchy with which you live with bhakti? Is something more important, or does something come first, or like this?
Well, as I said, the most important is Shravanam and Kirtanam of all the 9 processes of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya says chanting is actually the highest. With the chanting, we're also hearing. So these processes are the most important. The other processes are also important, but this is considered the most important. Shravanam and Kirtanam. And even other processes of devotional service they're only going to be nourished by the Shravanam and Kirtan. That's how they become perfect as well. Otherwise, they're not complete. Like when we're doing Archanam, deity worship, there has to be hearing and chanting. Otherwise, it's not going to be. It'll just become a ritual if there's no hearing and chanting.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As you were mentioning, Mataji, that we sometimes think about our own sense pleasure for ending suffering to go to Goloka. If one has such mentality, can he still attain the heaven, like Vaikuntha planetary systems?
So I didn't hear the question, the first part.
Like you were mentioning that sometimes we, for our own sense pleasure, think about going to the Goloka. So with such mentality, is it still possible to attain one of the planets in Vaikuntha?
Well, that's like, sometimes people pray to Krishna or they worship Krishna for something, some personal gain. That is not, it's not actually for our pleasure that we're doing it to please Krishna, whatever it is, whether we're doing service or in the beginning it's to please us, because we're pleasure seeking, and this is how we work. We've been conditioned to want to enjoy our senses. So the pleasure, we want the pleasure, but first, and we're doing it because we want the pleasure. But as we progress, then it's not so much what we're doing it for our own pleasure, we're doing it for Krishna, and that mentality of is in Goloka, that it's only for Krishna's pleasure. So if we have the opposite, we're trying to do it for our pleasure, then it doesn't really work. Of course, it's like, we should do things to please Krishna, and we will automatically be pleased anyway by that when Krishna is pleased. So it's not like we're going to lose out. So when we give to Krishna, then we're not the loser. We're actually gaining freedom from all this frustration in this material world, and we will gain a taste. But that shouldn't be our motivation. That's why we're doing it. We do it to please Krishna, and then automatically we'll feel satisfied and pleased anyway. Does that make sense?
Somebody's just does their service, but they're not prepared to go the extra mile. They just they clock in and do what they're supposed to do, and then when it comes to a certain time, they just clock out, and then it doesn't matter if the building's on fire. It's not their service to do that. So to go to Goloka, do you need to always be prepared to go the extra mile, to do that extra bit, to take the initiative and see that things need done?
Well, it's dependent on our attitude. Devotional service is dependent on our attitude, and that's what Krishna will see. Krishna is very merciful, because even if we do a little, even if it's motivated, Krishna will still give us some benefit for it. He'll still help us on the path. Like Ruva Maharaj was wanting, so much wealth, but he still worshipped Krishna. Krishna seen the good, and he gave him, when he gave him himself, he showed himself. Then Ruva Maharaj realized that he just waited, he was trying to find some broken pieces of glass, and now he's found the jewel. But so Krishna sees the good in whatever we do. So even if it's motivated bhakti, Krishna will still help us. He'll see that he'll help us along the path. But we have to come to the point where eventually we're doing it for the right reasons. That we're doing it to please Krishna, not just ourselves. But even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, he gives the process of pure devotional service, and he says, well, if you can't do this, then work for me. Offer the results of your work to me. And if you can't do that, then do this. So Krishna gives a whole range of bhakti, so that everybody can, do something on the path. So he doesn't say, well, if you're not going to do pure devotional service, then that's the end. So he gives different things, so that people eventually come to the point of pure devotional service.
In chapter 12, Krishna is saying wherever you can do is good. He's also wanting you to come to the next level. He doesn't want you to just stay at that level.
Yeah.
And say, okay, well, that's how it might be. He's wanting us to come to the point of pure devotional service step by step.
So Krishna will help us along the path, and he gives us something that inspires with that. So Krishna in the heart, he knows our needs, so he fills those needs in certain ways that inspire to perform devotional service, and eventually come to the state where we're constantly absorbed Krishna without any other motivation. But that is a long process, and we just to attain devotional service. We've got an art in our heart, so we have to do the process of anartanivritti. We have to go through the process of bhajpriya, anartanivritti, nishta, then eventually we come to the point where we're it's all becoming like a spontaneous. You don't have to force our mind to be still and hear the holy name. It automatically hears the holy name, automatically remembers Krishna. The mind, you don't have to force the mind to remember Krishna. It automatically, it naturally, remembers Krishna. Krishna's pastime come to your mind. So, and a very like. With lots of taste, it's not just a mechanical process. So we can perform mechanical devotional service. We're not going to get the real fruit. The real taste comes from devotional service, not mechanical service. So it's with devotion, with love. And so Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, if one offers with me with love, devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So that verse is really about pure devotees. When they offer Krishna, love, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, Krishna accepts it. And the next verse, Krishna says, offer everything you have, all that you eat, all that you offer, all that you give away, perform that as an offering unto me, sacrifice unto me. That's for those who don't have pure devotion. They have to offer more things to Krishna because they don't have the same love. So they offer, everything they eat, everything that they do, all those charities they perform, they do it as to please Krishna. They're trying to get to the point of pure devotional service. But the pure devotees, they can offer Krishna a little flower and he will, with love, then Krishna really you don't have to offer such, because there's so much love there, Krishna accepts it.
So we hear that Javanam Kirtanam is the most important, or listening is the most important line. And just on the face of it say, this surrender, Atmanivedanam, surrender, complete surrender. It sounds or looks like, okay, this is the thing, I have to surrender. If I'm not surrendered, surrender. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that surrender unto me, sarva dharman parityaja. Just how do I see, externally on the face, surrender looks the most important. But what we hear is that hearing is the most important.
Yeah, because the most important is to hear about Krishna, because that will bring about the surrender. That will help us to surrender to Krishna. We can't just jump to surrender without hearing and chanting. And there are 6 types of surrender. The 6, the Sharanagati, 6 types of surrender. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that surrender, there's accepting what's favorable, rejecting what's unfavorable for devotional service, accepting the Lord as one's maintainer, accepting him as one's protector, humility, and self-surrender. These are 6. So we're not going to reach that stage unless we hear enchanting. And even when we have come to the point of surrender, the hearing chant doesn't stop, it continues. You see, it's not like now I've come to the point of surrender, now I can stop hearing and chanting. This continues on with everything. So, it's like it's the means and the goal. Constantly hearing and chanting about Krishna. So, that's like surrender. Because we're surrendering our desires, surrendering our mind, our healing process, our process of speaking, that's surrendering. So the process of surrender is continuous. It's not like now I've come to the point of surrender. It's a continuous process. So
Thank
you can always surrender more and more. Yes. And
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. I often heard that we shouldn't go to Krishna and ask for something for us, but I'm wondering, should we go and ask for help to become more selfless, to grow, to develop the love for him?
yes, of course. We can't stop. We can't stop desiring. So we have to change our desires from material desires to spiritual desires. So the spiritual desires that we want to develop love for Krishna, we want to read about him, glorify him, serve him. These are spiritual desires, and they're conducive to the process of Krishna consciousness. So not like we negate desires, but we change our desires from material to spiritual desires. So it's the best way. And even if we do have material desires, then if we ask Krishna to fulfill those material desires, Krishna will fulfill them in such a way that we won't desire them again. Whereas if we go to demigods, then they'll just fulfill our desires, and we still have those desires, you know. But Krishna is very kind, so if we can use it in Krishna service, we can fulfill those desires in Krishna consciousness, then it can help us in our journey. So Krishna doesn't deprive of, or begrudge us from, having some sort of sense, because we have senses, so they're going to want some sort of sense enjoyment. But if it's regulated and if it's not overindulged in sense gratification, then there has to be a balance, especially in the very beginning of Krishna consciousness, that we balance our material needs with spiritual life. So that's why this Varna Ashram, because Varna Ashram helps to fulfill those material needs that we have, and still we can progress in Krishna consciousness. So, there's 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams that we can be in to help us along the path. And then as we advance, then all those we will not be so interested so much in the material side of things, but more interested in the spiritual progress, spiritual life, how to advance in our Krishna consciousness more. So it's just we're living in the material world, so there has to be some sort of balance, But when Prabhupada talks about bhakti, he's actually talking about pure bhakti in general. That is where there's no desires for any other, there's no other motives. But this is the gradual process to get to that stage. So yes, to keep praying like that, because that's the real way of making progress. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll finish there. So Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Kam Govinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Premanandi, Hare Krishna.